My name is Bobby Maximus, and you are here for a very, very, very special episode of Muscles and Magic the Gathering. Now, you know I love muscles. You know I love big, powerful things. And today we're going to talk about one of the most powerful commanders of all time. The commander in Magic the Gathering that you absolutely do not want to meet in a dark alley. Now, you might think it's Edgar Markov. You might think it's a Scarab God. You might think it's Emrakul. You might think it's Selvala with her gang of beasts. But you'd be wrong. We are talking about the ferocious, the loathsome, the powerful, the just downright frightening Miss Bumbleflower. Now, I'm chuckling because she looks pretty cute and cuddly. But you may, if you're watching this video, have been on the wrong end of a Miss Bumbleflower beatdown. And you know what we're about to talk about. So all that said, let's talk about Miss Bumbleflower. Here's the deal. Even if you don't like Miss Bumbleflower, you're going to learn all about 1/1 counters, and you're going to learn about card draw. This deck has card draw everything in it, so make sure you stay tuned. But here we go with Miss Bumbleflower. Cute, cuddly, ferocious, not to be trifled with. Vigilance, and whenever you cast a spell, target opponent draws a card. Bit of a group hug feel. Put a 1/1 counter on a target creature. There's a lot of 1/1 counter stuff in this deck, so stay tuned for that as well. That creature is going to gain flying until the end of turn, and if this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, you draw 2 cards. We want that ability to resolve a second time, so there's a bunch of instants in this deck as well. Let's talk about the commanders that support Miss Bumbleflower. First of all, we have Jace. Remember I said how this deck had card draw everything? The +2 ability, each player draws a card. The -1 ability, target player draws a card. The -10 ability, target player puts the top 20 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. We have Oko the Ringleader. At the beginning of combat on your turn, Oko the Ringleader becomes a copy of to one target creature you control until the end of turn, except he has hexproof. The +1 ability, draw 2 cards. There's that card draw mechanic again. If you've committed a crime this turn, discard a card. Otherwise, discard 2 cards. The -1 ability, create a 3/3 green elk creature token. The -5 ability, for each other non-land permanent you control, create a token that's a copy of that permanent. And then we have Tameo, Field Researcher, the Bloom Burrow theme, if you will. We're keeping with the cute and cuddly theme. The +1 ability, choose up to 2 target creatures until your next turn. Whenever either of those creatures deals combat damage, you draw a card. The -2 ability, tap up to 2 target non-land permanents. They don't untap during the controller's next untap step. And then the final ability, draw 3 cards. You get an emblem with, you may cast spells from your hand without paying their mana cost. We're going to have so many cards in our hand. This is going to be absolutely unreal. Now let's talk creatures. And I've got my mock sealed pulled up. There are links to the show notes, or there's a link to this deck list in the show notes. We have 25 creatures. The first one, we have Heliod, the Radiant Dawn. When Heliod, the Radiant Dawn, enters the battlefield, return target enchantment card that isn't a god from your graveyard to your hand. You pay 4 mana, one of them being blue or life. Transform Heliod, the Radiant Dawn, activate only as a sorcery. And what does Heliod transform into? Heliod, the Warped Eclipse. You may cast spells as though they had flash. Spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each card your opponents have drawn this turn. Nadir Kraken. Whenever you draw a card, you may pay 1. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on Nadir Kraken and create a 1/1 blue tentacle creature token. We have the Dusk Legion Duelist. Whenever 1 or more 1/1 counters are put on Dusk Legion Duelist, draw a card. Absolutely massive in this deck. This ability triggers only once each turn. The Polywog Prodigy. Evolve. Whenever a creature you control enters, if that creature has greater power or toughness than this creature, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell with mana value less than Polywog Prodigy's power, draw a card. The Consecrated Sphinx. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you may draw 2 cards. Massive in this deck. Banned card alert, the Prophet of Kruphix. Untap all creatures and lands you control during each other player's untap step. You may cast creature cards as though they had flash. And don't at me about banned cards. I play with banned cards. Listen, if you can have your Rhystic Study, if you can have your Smothering Tithe, if you can have your One Ring, if you can have your Shieldred, I'm allowed to have my Prophet of Kruthix. So get out of there with the oppressive banned list. It is not welcome at my table. The banned list has no power over Bobby Maximus. Speaking of banned cards, we have the Hull Breacher. Flash. If an opponent would draw a card, except the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, instead you create a treasure token. Please, 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 Wizards, free the Hull Breacher. We need the Hull Breacher back. Beza, the Bounding Spring. When Beza, the Bounding Spring enters, create a treasure token. If an opponent controls more lands than you, you gain 4 life. If an opponent has more life than you, create 2 1/1 blue fish creature tokens. If an opponent controls more creatures than you, draw a card if an opponent has more cards in hand than you. Psychosis Crawler. Psychosis Crawler's power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in your hand. This is going to be a monster in this deck. And whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses a life. Oh boy, is that ever going to be fun. Lord of the Third Path. When Lord of the Third Path enters, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment, and then you can tap it, you and target opponent draw a card. I love the removal on this card. You don't have enough removal in your commander deck. Trust me on that. Manjera the Diplomat. Lifelink, whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you and or planeswalkers you control, draw a card. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, draw a card. The Chasm Skulker. Whenever you draw a card, put a 1/1 counter on Chasm Skulker. When Chasm Skulker dies, create X 1/1 blue squid creature tokens with Island Walk, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on Chasm Skulker. Massive in this deck. Jalrail, the Monvuli Recluse. I think I said that right. I'm going to butcher a bunch of stuff in this deck, by the way, especially when that wizard comes up. You know the wizard I'm talking about. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 2/2 green cat creature token. You pay 6 mana, 2 being green, until end of turn. Creatures you control have base power and toughness XX, where X is the number of cards in your hand. Wild. Here we go with the 20-eyed toad. Your maximum hand size is 20. Whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, put a 1/1 counter on 20-eyed toad and draw a card. Whenever 20-eyed toad, not 20-eyed toad, the 20-toed toad. Let me get that straight. Let's start that all over again. The 20-toed toad. Your maximum hand size is 20. Whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, put a 1/1 counter on the toad and draw a card. And whenever the toad attacks, you win the game if there are 20 or more counters on it, or you have 20 or more cards in hand. The Body of Knowledge. Power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in your hand. You have no maximum hand size. Whenever Body of Knowledge is dealt damage, draw that many cards. The Goose Mother. In the Wilds of Eldraine, the Goose Mother enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it. When the Goose Mother enters the battlefield, create half X food tokens rounded up. And whenever the Goose Mother attacks, you may sacrifice a food. If you do, draw a card. Here is a card draw dragon, the card draw dragon, Ancient Silver Dragon. Beautiful foil printing of it. Whenever Ancient Silver Dragon deals combat damage to a player, roll a d20. Draw cards equal to the result. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. The greatest mana ramp card of all time, the Birds of Paradise. You need more mana ramp in your commander deck. Trust me on that. Another Ancient Dragon. Love the Ancient Dragon series from Baldur's Gate. Some of the best creatures ever. Flying. Whenever Ancient Bronze Dragon deals combat damage to a player, roll a d20. When you do, put X 1/1 counters on each of up to 2 target creatures, where X is the result. The Scrawling Crawler. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player draws a card. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player loses 1 life. The Ledger Shredder. Whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, Ledger Shredder connives. Another great mana ramp card, the Noble Hierarch. The Primordial Hydra. Primordial Hydra enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, double the number of 1/1 counters on Primordial Hydra. Primordial Hydra has trample as long as it has 10 or more 1/1 counters on it. We have Quain, the Internet Meddler. Tap it, each player may draw a card. Then each player who drew a card this way gains a life. And then remember that wizard I said that you just can't pronounce. Trisk Adakafile. I think I said that right. If I butchered it, feel free to roast me in the comments. You have no maximum hand size. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have exactly 13 cards in your hand, you win the game. Great win condition for this deck. And then you pay a couple of mana, you can draw a card. Those are my creatures. There are 25 of them. Now we are going to move on to artifacts. And what would a 1/1 counter card draw deck be without the Great Henge? Legendary artifact, great card. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. You can tap it and add 2 mana, you gain 2 life. And whenever a non-token creature enters a battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on it and draw a card. Some great mana ramp cards, Soul Ring and the Arcane Signet, 2 of the best of all time. Of course, we had to include an Ivory Tower. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may gain X life, where X is the number of cards in your hand, -4. We have the Sword of War and Peace. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from red and white. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, Sword of War and Peace deals damage to that player equal to the number of cards in their hand, and you gain 1 life for each card in your hand. We have the Wedding Ring. Great card. When Wedding Ring enters the battlefield, and it's a great card in this deck, if it was cast, target opponent creates a token that's a copy of it. Whenever an opponent who controls an artifact named Wedding Ring draws a card during the turn, you may draw a card. So we're going to draw a ton of cards here. Love this card. Whenever an opponent who controls an artifact named Wedding Ring gains life during the turn, you gain that much life. We have the Thought Vessel. No maximum hand size. We need that. And 1/1 counters, Ocelot, the Shattered Spire. One of my favorite 1/1 counter support cards of all time. If one or more 1/1 counters will be put on an artifact or creature you control, put that many plus 1/1 counter on it, or put on it instead. You pay a couple of mana and tap, put a 1/1 counter on a target artifact or creature you control, activate only as a sorcery, and it has cycling. Those are my artifacts. Let's talk enchantments. We have the Monk class. All right. So the first class, the second spell you cast each turn costs 1 less to cast. Really important in this deck because we want to trigger Miss Bumbleflower's ability a second time. Let me get that in frame. When this class becomes level 2, return up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. And then level 3, at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. For as long as it remains exiled, you may cast this card from exile as long as you've cast another spell this turn. Teferi's Ageless Insight. If you would draw a card except the first one you draw in each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead. Wizard class, no maximum hand size. Level 2. When this class becomes level 2, draw 2 cards. Level 3. Whenever you draw a card, put a 1/1 counter on a target creature you control. And then we have Psychic Corrosion. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent mills 2 cards. Absolutely nasty in this deck because of our card draw, right? Some great win conditions all around here. I promised you a bunch of instants. Why? Because we want to trigger Miss Bumbleflower's ability a second time so we can draw those 2 cards. We have the Arcane Denial and a bit of a miscut one here. This is actually one of my favorite cards. I love miscut or odd things. I'm kind of from the island of misfit toys myself, so love it. Counter target spell. Its controller may draw up to 2 target cards at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. If you draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep, you draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. It was kind of hard to read. Dramatic Reversal. Untap all non-land permanents you control. Great card. Perch Protection. Gift an extra turn. That's a great gift. We don't talk about politics enough here, but politics at a commander table are hugely important. Create 4 2/2 blue bird creature tokens with flying. If the gift was promised, all permanents you control phase out, and until your next turn, your life total can't change, and you gain protection from everything. Frantic Search. Draw 2 cards and choose and discard 2 cards. Untap up to 3 lands. Peerless Recycling. Gift a card. You may promise an opponent a gift as you cast a spell. If you do, they draw a card before its other effects. Return target permanent card from the graveyard to your hand. If the gift was promised, instead return 2 target permanent cards from the graveyard to your hand. Sink into Stupor. It's one of those double-sided cards. return target spell or non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. And these MFDFC cards, I absolutely love them because it just gives you another way to add some mana, which is super important. We have the Beholder's Sleep Ray. Counter target activated or triggered ability. An offer you can't refuse. One of my favorite counter spells of all time. Counter target non-creature spell. The controller creates 2 treasure tokens. We have the Dawn's Truce. Gift a card. You and permanents you control get hexproof until the end of turn. If the gift was promised, permanents you control also gain indestructible till the end of turn. Path to Exile, one of the greatest removal spells of all time, especially in white. Crop Rotation. At the time you play Crop Rotation, sacrifice a land, search your library for a land card and put that land into play, shuffle your library afterwards. Silk Guard, great card for 1/1 counters. A lot of people forget about this one. Put a 1/1 counter on each of up to X target creatures you control, or as equipment and modified creatures you control gain hexproof until the end of turn. Wow, monster counter spell. Dovin's Veto. This spell can't be countered. That's key. Counter target non-creature spell. Spell Pierce. We have a lot of low casting cost instants here, so we can trigger Miss Bumbleflower's ability a second time, all right? Counter target non-creature spell unless his controller plays 2. Orm's Chant. Kicker. Target player can't cast spells this turn. If this spell was kicked, creatures can't attack this turn. Swords to Plowshares. You know, this is like 1A to Path to Exile's 1B. Great removal spell. We have counter spell. We all know what that does. The classic and beautiful Strixhaven version of it. Veil of Summer. Draw a card if an opponent had cast a blue or black spell this turn. Spells you control can't be countered this turn. You and permanents you control gain hexproof from blue and from black until the end of turn. We have Wear Down. Sorcery. Gift a card and destroy target artifact or enchantment. If the gift was promised, instead destroy 2 artifacts or enchantments. You don't, I'll say it again. I think I said it earlier in this video. I've said it in a bunch of my videos. You don't run enough removal in your commander deck. So get with the times. Tempt with Bunnies. Draw a card and create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token. Then each opponent may draw a card and create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token. For each opponent who does, you draw a card and create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token. And then Tempt with Discovery. Tempting offer. Search your library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield. Each opponent may search their library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield. For each opponent who searches a library this way, search your library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield. Then each player who searched a library this way shuffles. Okay, there we go. All the instants and all the sorceries, because again, we want to trigger Miss Bumbleflower. Let's talk about land. I got a couple basics to show you. Some beautiful lands. I love beautiful lands. A lot of these are from Secret Lair, but I like to really feature a lot of these lands in these decks. A lot of these decks are actually, a lot of people ask me questions like, hey, Bobby, why didn't you include this card? Why did you include this card? Because a lot of my decks are based on collecting, not just competitiveness. So I like to showcase the cool cards that I have. Now let's talk about non-basic lands. We have the Temple of Plenty. We have the Seaside Citadel. We have the Oak Hollow Village. We have the Temple of Mystery. A lot of temples. The Temple of Enlightenment. We have the Sea Chrome Coast. We have the Drannith Ruins. Now, this is interesting. This second ability here. Put 2 1/1 counters on target non-human creature that enters the battlefield this turn. Again, some 1/1 counter strategies. We have the Hinterland Harbor. Love these pain lands. The Brushland. We have the Razor Verge Thicket. Now, you know this land had to be in here. The Reliquary Tower. Why? You have no maximum hand size. Leaping Flower Village. Add a colorless mana. Add a white mana. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell. And then you could sacrifice Luna Flower Village. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a bat, bird, mouse, or rabbit card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And I actually just realized this card doesn't really fit in this deck. It works fine. But at one point, I had a lot more rabbits in this deck. This was my rabbit deck, but I changed it completely to allow a lot more synergy with Miss Bumbleflower. So I'm going to take this out at some point. So just keep that in mind. Right? And I do that a lot. I'm constantly changing decks. I go a different direction with them. In fact, by the time you see the deck list for this, it may have changed because there might be new cards that I want to add, or I might decide, hey, I'm going to go in a better 1/1 counter direction instead of card draw. Like I might change things up. I am always tinkering with my decks. It is my favorite thing to do. So stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff coming up in the future as well. And keep checking my deck lists because you're always going to learn by going there, and it's a lot of fun. Hopefully you have as much fun looking at them as I do building them. And by the way, all these deck lists, I actually own all these decks in their entirety. The Lush Portico, one of the Surveil lands, absolutely love these from Murders at Karlov Manor. The Flooded Strand, beautiful card. The Yavimaya Coast, the Adokar Wastes, another one of those pain lands. The Verge lands, absolutely love them. The Hedge Maze, another Surveil land from Murders at Karlov Manor. We have another one of those Verge lands, the Hushwood Verge. We have a Command Tower, the Bloomburrow version, because this kind of has a low-key Bloomburrow theme. The Windswept Heath. Pay 1 life, sacrifice Windswept Heath, search your library for a forest or plains card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Ooh, Miko Koro, Center of the Sea. Colorless mana, or pay 2 and each player draws a card. The Willow Rush Verge from Ether Drift, absolutely loved that set. Rivendell. Rivendell enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a legendary creature. You can add a blue mana. Actually, I should just show you the card. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm reading them off screen. I am sorry for that. I apologize. Scry 2, activate only if you control a legendary creature. We have the Fabled Passage. Sacrifice. Let me make that a little more clear for you. Sacrifice Fabled Passage. Search your library for a basic land card. Put it onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle. Then if you control 4 or more lands, untap that land. We have the Overflowing Basin. We have the Sun Petal Grove. We have the Canopy Vista. We have Fountain Port, a great land, great utility land, if you will. Add a colorless, pay 2, sacrifice a token, draw a card. Pay 3, pay 1 life, create a 1/1 bluefish creature token, and then pay 4, create a treasure token. The Horizon of Progress, pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce. Pay 3 mana, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tap. Sacrifice it, you can draw a card. There we go with that card draw. Lilypad Village, add a colorless mana. You can add a blue mana, spend this mana only to cast a creature spell, and then Surveil 2, activate only if a bird, frog, otter, or rat entered the battlefield under your control this turn. The Sky Cloud Expanse and the Sun Grass Prairie. There you have it, my Miss Bumbleflower deck. Got a couple of lands to take out, a couple of more lands to put in. But here's the beauty of how I build decks, and I actually have a massive ask for you. I want you to leave me some comments about how I can improve my deck. You see, I'm almost entirely about collecting. All right. Now I do build some pretty good decks and I have a massive collection of cards, but I know I could do better. So if you have some ideas for me, please leave them in the comments. A lot of times I will change my decks. In fact, by the time this video is uploaded to my channel, I may have changed the deck already. That's a comment I often get. Hey, your deck list appears a little different than what is in the video, because with like a new set like Edge of Eternity's coming out, Spider-Man's coming out, Avatar's coming out, like who knows what I'm going to add, what I'm going to take away. I do get a lot of the new sets, so I'm constantly tinkering. So any ideas you have for me, again, I would absolutely love to hear from you. There's so many cards in the Magic the Gathering community. I can't take, I don't know them all, or I forget about them, right? So if you have some ideas for me, there's actually one card and I can't remember the name for it, but it punishes people for having a lot of cards in their hand. They lose life. I've got to think of it because I do want to add it to the deck. If you know what that one is, put it in the comments. But at any rate, now I'm rambling. Thank you for coming to another episode of Muscles and Magic the Gathering. 1/1 counters, card draw, and the pub stomping, the ferocious, the loathsome, the insane, the just heavy-handed sludge hammer swinging Miss Bumbleflower. We'll see you next time.